Okay, that's usually the part that I play in the financial town meeting. However, tonight we have a special need, and that is for the election of a moderator. Let me tell you what we have done up to this point. We advertised, as we have been doing for the last few years since the charter required voting at the general election. We advertised for candidates and asked them to come in and complete a declaration. We advertised twice in April for this purpose, and we received one declaration only, and that was for Mr. James A. Donnelly. That was from Mr. James A. Donnelly, Jr. Now, the charter requires that the election of the moderator be by paper ballot. Since I only had one candidate, I thought that I could come before this body and ask someone to make a motion for the clerk to cast one paper ballot for the election of the moderator, and we could get started and go on from there. In order for me to do that, I beg your pardon? I'm sorry?
I want to cast the one ballot for Mr. Donnelly to be moderator.
You're making the motion?
This particular year only.
Oh, yes, okay. For this year only?
Yes.
Yeah, let me complete the entire matter of the moderator. The Board of Canvassers met on this question. Tonight's meeting would have been the last meeting for Attorney Louise Durfee, who has been our moderator for many years, as you know. She had to resign because of her position on the town council. Because the charter requires written ballots and so forth, it was the decision of the Board of Canvassers that tonight we elect the moderator for tonight and for the ensuing term, which is for the next 2 years.
Mr. Clerk, that is not what the charter says. The charter says that the term will go till it's vacated. This is the last year. People have a right to have that seat as moderator at the next town financial meeting for a 2-year period. It's not right to box people out of having that opportunity just because you want to elect somebody for this term that has not expired and an additional term which would be up next year.
Well, the proper thing for this meeting, this is being an odd year, is to elect the moderator for the next 2. That leaves this position vacant for tonight.
That is not true. He doesn't get another 2 years.
That's what the charter calls for.
It does not. It says right here that the moderator shall serve for 2 years with the start of the fiscal year until a successor is elected. That successor will serve the remainder of that term. It is not. You're not going to elect him for another term on top of that.
This is not a term. This is an unexpired period. In any case, I'm telling you what the Board of Canvassers have decided, and that's what I'm going to ask you to do. So I'm going to call the meeting to order for the sole purpose of electing the moderator for tonight and for the term that he would normally be elected for anyway. Okay, would somebody give me a motion to cast one paper ballot for the election of Mr. Donnelly for tonight and for the ensuing term? Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say no.
No.
The ayes have it.
And I object to the motion.
I'm now going to declare just a 2-minute recess in order for the moderator to come up and have the honor of opening up the meeting. if you'd like to come forward before the fire chief closes this room to any further increases in attendance. If there's a vacant seat next to you, would you raise your hand so the people can come toward you? People, please raise your hand if you get a vacant seat in your vicinity. We get the people seated. We can proceed all the sooner.
You think it's going to be evident? We have to ask them for a count. I should probably ask for a count anyway. We know it's well over 301, right? Okay, as well as 800 people here. Could we have a vote, please, as to how many people are in the auditorium?
No yawning. Yeah, I'm worried about that. We do have Simon Cast. There is Simon Cast.
730 voters.
Thank you. There is a quorum of 301. At this time, I'd ask everyone to rise for the Star Spangled Banner, please. At this time, I'd like to reintroduce the town clerk, Hannibal Costa, for the reading of the warrant.
This is the warning for the financial town meeting by Hannibal F. Costa, town clerk, to Clarence T. White, town sergeant, or either of the constables in said town. Greetings. Pursuant to Chapter 3 of Title 45 of the General Laws of the State of Rhode Island, you are hereby required to post at least 7 days before the 7th of May 2003 AD written notification in 3 or more public places in said town of Tiverton, Rhode Island, notifying and warning the electors of said town of Tiverton qualified to vote upon any proposition for the expenditure of money to assemble in town meeting at the Tiverton Junior Senior High School, 100 North Brayton Road in said town of Tiverton, on Wednesday, May 7th, 2003 AD, at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time, for the purpose of ordering a tax to be levied and assessed on the rateable property of said town and the inhabitants thereof, for the payment of the town's debts and interest, for the payment of the town's portion of the state tax, for the support and maintenance of the poor, for building, repairing, and amending highways, for building, repairing, and amending bridges, for the improvement in any man deemed fit of any property belonging to the town, for all necessary charges and expenses whatsoever arising within said town, whether incidental or not to the above, but for taking such action as may be expedient in relation to authorizing the town treasurer to release to the parties legally entitled to redeem the same land conveyed by the collector of taxes to the town when the time for redemption has not expired, and also to vote and act on the matters and propositions currently listed in your docket. I have them in the warrant, however, I will not read them or we'll be here all night. Pursuant to the foregoing warrant, the following will be in order. First, the election of the moderator, followed by the receiving of written reports of town officers and committees and the acting thereon. Second, the making of appropriations for support of schools, for general repair of highways, bridges, and town cemeteries, for the care and maintenance of the supplies for the town's operating departments, for the compensation of town officers, support of the poor, payment of unpaid bills, lighting of street, decoration of soldiers' graves, state taxes, insurance, support of libraries, and so forth. Third, the voting on the tax resolution. Fourth, the transacting of such other business as may legally come before said meeting and for any and all purposes by law authorized. Given under my hand and seal of office this 25th day of April 2003 at said town of Tiverton, Rhode Island, a true copy attest, Hannibal F. Costa, Town Clerk. To Clarence D. White, Town Sergeant, you were directed to post this morning and to make a return as provided by law.
Mr. Would you call forward and swear in to tell us?
With the following who have volunteered to be tellers, please come forward to be sworn. Raymond Madeira Sr., 2960 Main Road. If they would just come right down to the front. Mr. Bob Vermette of 23 Mallard Lane. Mr. Russell Boulay of 301 Boogamarsh Road. Mr. Earl Albert of 857 Crandall Road. And because we have voters now in the cafeteria, James C. Rigo of 44 Paul James Drive. If they would come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. We're now going to turn to the first page of the docket, which I'm going to summarize. It's an unnumbered page. It says on the top, Town of Tiverton, Rhode Island, docket, fiscal year July 1, 2003 through June 30, 2004. And it says the total amount of expenditures recommended is, and for this fiscal year, it's the last column, fiscal year 2003-2004, $30,177,244.87, less anticipated reimbursements of, I'm not going to read them, but you can follow them all the way through, down to the bottom, and then it says, which leaves a sum of $20,547,860.87 to be raised by taxation, which will necessitate a property tax rate of approximately real property intangible of $14.40, motor vehicle tax rate of $19.14, and an inventory tax rate of $10. Now we'll turn the page. I am going to read the first four resolves, which are really the rules of the meeting. Yes, sir? Where's the...
Okay, what I'm referring to is the docket that you're reading from.
Yes.
You're asking us to follow it. This has been non-existent up in the front since 7:15. Not all of us have this. If anybody does not have it, if they'd like to raise their hand and just acknowledge that what I'm talking about, you can see a large proportion of the people here. You've known this is going to be a large turnout. We're a little lacking. I don't think anybody wants to read every single number, nor will I remember every single number as we go through this, but I would like to understand this budget process a little bit better than being lacking a document that's important to the process.
I understand that there were 750 printed and that they were all out there at the beginning of the meeting.
Well, you have more than 700. How many people are here?
7:30.
I think there are people here and outside that is probably more than that amount.
There's a gentleman
So I
at
think
front door
that
counting.
people sitting next to one another, if you can share them, I think that we should be able to get through the meeting.
I'm not sure that that would work, but I have a concern. I personally want a copy. And if anybody else wants one, they're entitled to one.
Hey, save yours.
I have my copy. It was passed along to me now, so I do have one, but if anybody else wants their copy, I'm going to leave them to kind of fight it out by themselves. Please speak up.
Jim, I don't know if it will do much good, but if anybody wants a copy for regulars, they'll make copies tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to proceed now because we've got a lot to go through this evening. The first four resolutions are really the rules of the meeting. I am going to read the first four resolutions, and then we'll take a vote on the rules for this evening. The first one is resolved that any town department head, including the school superintendent and the director of library services, may participate in these proceedings, but may not vote in these proceedings if that person is not a registered elector of the town of Tiverton. 2, resolved that in order to conduct an orderly flow of business, the moderator will recognize the chairman of the budget committee or his designee to place the budget committee's recommendation before the electors. Following the budget committee's recommendation, the moderator shall recognize an amendment from the applicable department, committee, if any, and no more than 2 amendments from the floor. All motions must be seconded. Discussion shall be allowed in the reverse order in which the motions were presented. In making a motion, the elector should, 1, proceed to the nearest microphone, 2, state his/her name and address, and 3, state the motion, which must contain a specific dollar amount. Number 3, resolve that no motion that alters, amends, rescinds, or reconsiders any previous action shall be entertained by the moderator unless there are as many or more electors present as there were at the time the original vote was taken, and the person moving said motion shall have been recorded as voting on the prevailing side. And 4th, resolve that the town meeting shall receive the written reports of the town offices and committees.
Mr. Moderator, we would move approval of those resolutions.
Second. Mr. Moderator, question. Who on the stage is not a member of the town here? That falls into this category.
It would be the interim.
The gentleman next to Mr. Towers, is he a town resident?
No, this is our solicitor.
What is he?
He's the town solicitor.
You're the town solicitor.
He's here to give us advice throughout this proceeding.
Okay, now we'll go forward with the vote. All in favor of those 4 resolutions, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We'll now proceed to number 5. Resolved that the town treasurer is hereby authorized and empowered to release to the parties legally entitled to redeem the same real estate conveyed to the town by the collector of taxes upon payment to the town of taxes, penalties, and expenses thereto, and to sell other parcels on which the period of redemption has expired.
Mr. Moderator, we would move approval of that resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolved that the town treasurer is hereby authorized and empowered to borrow, if necessary, in the name and on the credit of the town, such sums of money as may be required for the fiscal year 2003-2004 for transacting the obligations incurred by appropriations made at this financial town meeting, such sums of money not to exceed in the aggregate the sum of $500,000.
Mr. Moderator, would move that resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Number 7, resolved that the electors of this financial town meeting hereby protect the integrity of all salary accounts within each department and library services by prohibiting the transfer of funds between operating accounts and salary accounts. Further resolved that no amount from any department salary account shall be transferred to any other department, with the exception that the town administrator be allowed to make salary transfers between departments as they affect employees that are governed by the ASME collective bargaining agreement.
Mr. Moderator, would move approval of that resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Number 8, resolved that all non-recurring accounts be restricted for their intended purpose and that no transfers are authorized in or out of those accounts.
Mr. Moderator, would move approval of that resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Resolved that once the electors of this financial town meeting appropriate the sum of $168,304 for the landfill closure restricted account under the Department of Public Works budget, said fund shall be placed in a reserve fund under Rhode Island General Laws 4511(1) and are to be used solely for the purpose of landfill closure.
Mr. Moderator, would move approval of that resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolved that all funds received from the federal or state government for the purpose of reimbursing the town for any expenditure authorized by appropriations made as a result of this financial town meeting shall be deposited into the town general fund as surplus.
Mr. Moderator, would move approval of that resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolved that any supplemental funds received from the federal or state governments for the purpose of school department expenditures previously and currently funded by the town shall result in an equal amount of current appropriated funds being returned to the town's general fund.
Mr. Moderator, would move approval of that resolution.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolved that the electors at this financial town meeting hereby authorize the taking from the general fund surplus balance as of June 30, 2002, the sum of $500,000. This amount shall not exceed the amount noted in the first paragraph of this docket, and there shall remain in the general fund reserve an amount to cover 3% of all expenditures approved at this financial town meeting in accordance with the provisions outlined in the town charter.
Mr. Moderator, would move approval of that resolution.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolved that the treasurer is authorized to draw an amount not to exceed $100,000 from the town's general fund reserve for the purpose of paying short-term bond anticipation notes used to bridge the town's issuance of the school bond $3.7 million note authorized pursuant to the November 2002 general election.
Mr. Moderator, would move approval of that resolution.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Resolved that the treasurer be allowed to borrow from the general fund sums as needed, not to exceed $250,000, to be used for architectural and engineering costs related to the high school renovation project. Such sums drawn by the treasurer shall be immediately repaid to the general fund from the approved high school renovation bond upon issuance.
Mr. Moderator, would move approval of that resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, ma'am. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Resolved that the Tiverton Town Council is authorized and empowered to sell a partial section of land located on the east side of Fish Road, referred to as map 2-9, block 113, lot 85J.
Mr. Moderator, would move approval of that resolution.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, there is discussion.
I'll need your name and address, please.
My name is Barbara Martin. I live at 313 Neck Road. Okay. This particular parcel abuts a large portion of town-owned land on Fish Road. The owner of this lot wants to subdivide his lot and wants to buy 10,000 square feet of land from the town of Tiverton. This town land is a very valuable resource. It belongs to all of the citizens of Tiverton. And for one property owner to be able to buy a piece of land from the town of Tiverton sets a very dangerous precedent. It gives the town council the authorization to sell off-town land in bits and pieces so that if someone else in the future wants to buy a piece of property that from the town because they're in a butter, then I don't see the way that the town can prevent that. So I am definitely against this, and I think the rest of the people in this room should be against it. This is your land.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Patricia Sylvester. I live at 301 Winnisimmet. I agree with Mrs. Martin that this is a very poor policy. I would recommend that the town have a policy in place about selling land to private landowners for a variety of reasons before something like this happens. So I am opposed to this also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator. Just so it's clear, the Budget Committee is not advocating that we approve this. We've approved it to get it for discussion up on the floor, but all these resolutions, quite frankly, this one actually came from the town council. It needed to be put on the docket. It was requested to put on. We put it on. We moved it solely for the purpose of discussion.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to discuss this matter?
I agreed to speak to it because it came up. You know? Because I'm aware of it. I took a look at the place, and if any of you are aware of it, there's a piece of town property, mostly swamp and so on, but it can be used as open space, and this is something I'm very much in favor of. And we're talking about not a lot of land, and we're being given access to that property, which we don't have adequate access without it. And he has agreed to buy it and give us a right-of-way or access to the town property. So I think it's well worth doing.
Yes, sir, Moderator. My name's Larry Miranda, 114 Hobson Avenue in Tiverton. Specifically, how much land are we talking, and it's adjacent to, I'm assuming this is adjacent to what was the land that the school board gave back to the town that was originally designed for, set aside for the elementary schools years ago on the east side of Fish Road? It's a very large parcel that we gave back to the town. And I believe this lot abuts that. How much land are we talking? And how much land is the abutting lot, both lots? Does anybody know?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I'd be glad to answer that question. James Towers, 95 South Avenue. I'm the administrator to the town. Mr. Miranda, the land in question, the identification 2911385J, is actually a parcel of land that is approximately 62 acres. It's owned by the town. If you will notice in the resolve, it indicates that the people, or that there is the request of the town council to sell a partial section. There is, in fact, someone who has expressed an interest in acquiring this land. They are interested in acquiring 14,000 square feet, approximately a quarter acre. They are requesting to buy approximately 1/4 of the 62 acres. They currently own land that abuts it. They have requested of the town council that the land be considered as an option so that they can now meet the minimum requirements for the volume of land needed to construct one additional home for a family member on that property. The procedure within the town, Larry, is that whenever there is town-owned land that is potentially desirous to anyone, that they have to put that request before the financial town meeting. So the town council never has the opportunity to sell without the blessings of the people in the town. the town council asked that this item be put on the agenda for the 14,000 square feet, not the 62,000. If, in fact, the town chooses this evening to authorize the sale of this approximately 14,000 square feet, then it would be the responsibility of my office to solicit sealed bids from anyone interested in purchasing. I will concede that there will not be a large number of people interested in this 14,000. In the consideration which Mr. Fernandez was discussing, part of the 14,000 making their property enough to have 2 buildable lots. By the way, there is currently 1 home on one of the lots. They have agreed to give an easement to the town so that we can get to the land that we own, because at this time we cannot get to the 62 acres. It's not the land, it's the land that is on Fish Road, south of the area beyond the industrial park.
How much of that 14,000, if I may ask, square feet of the 60 is road frontage?
None.
Okay.
It's totally fronting on the back of their property line. They are asking to take approximately 100,000 square feet, add 14, they have 106,000 square feet. They would like to buy from the town 14,000, so they would have 120,000 total. It's in an R60 area, so they need 2 60,000 square foot parcels. Not 1 foot of that frontage is on the road. It is strictly abutting the back of the one person that came to the town asking for the opportunity to purchase it. Okay?
Yes, Mr.
Well, even though this is on as a, excuse me, I suppose it won't come as any surprise to Mr. Fernandez for me to say this was not a unanimous decision of the Tiverton Town Council. And I think those that had concerns about it really were the same concerns that have been expressed on the floor of this meeting, in that there are no guidelines here. And for the town to embark on just accommodating a private party of town-owned land, I really had some concerns about it. I expressed them at the time, as well as somebody else from the council. So I just thought that should be stated for the record.
Yes, ma'am, over on the side.
My name is Linda Duclos, 10 Olympia Avenue. This is not the only area in Tiverton that someone's trying to buy town property. At the bottom of Bismarck Avenue, there is a piece of property that abuts the Starwood, the development, and there is a private owner that abuts that is also trying to buy town property. So we have this problem not just in one area, we have it in other areas, and this is an issue, and Mr. Towers is well aware of this.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
John DaCosta, 5 Washington Avenue. Of course, Tiverton. Shakespeare on Hamlet, someone said, something is rotten in the state of Denmark. The town of Tiverton is not in the business of real estate. Town councils come, town councils go. We come, we go. No one will take the land with them. So my suggestion is that we vote this down. Do not sell the land. I have been here 21 years and I bought some land and somebody told me, oh, you are not going to be able to do anything with that. Not true, my friends. Keep the land for the town of Tiverton. We are not that desperate yet. So please, I beg you, do not sell land because something is rotten in the town of Tiverton.
You can't top that, I don't think.
No, I can't. No, I can't top that. But what I would like to correct the impression that there is not a right of way to this land. There is a right of way from Fish Road. It may be a steep and bouldery access, but there is an access. It is not necessary to purchase an easement for the sale of this property.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, ma'am.
Teresa Jagman, 177 Lepus Road. I have a question for Mr. Towers. I'd like to know what the sale price of this land is.
Ma'am, we do not have an established number. As I said, if this meeting indicated that they wanted to sell it, we must, by state law, do it by sealed bid.
Okay.
So there is no number put on it, ma'am. And also, for the benefit of the lady from Bismarck, she's absolutely correct. There are a number of people in this community asking to buy land in the town. Predominantly, the town council has said no. On this particular parcel, they felt as though it would be an opportunity for someone who had come before them. There is, I have not said that there was not a right-of-way. What I did say is that the people agreed to giving a right-of-way across their property, which is substantially better right-of-way than the one that is substantially south of it. I have to, please understand, ladies and gentlemen, I'm answering your questions as they're being asked. I am not advocating for this. This was a request that came forward. We need to do that, and we have done so.
Thank you.
Are we ready for the vote? One last one.
Ron Klein. I'm at 260 Sousa Road. I was wondering if you're going to do it by sealed bid, and is that land locked in, the land that he wants, that nobody else will bid on it? So who else? How are you going to do a good sealed bid if nobody's really going to want that land behind there? So what's going on here?
Thank you.
I don't know.
Mr. Moderator, Gerald Daquette, 79 Warren Avenue. Just a procedural question.
Yes, sir.
There are now 100 people in the cafeteria. If we take voice votes and it turns out to be close, how do they get heard?
If it's close at all, we'll have a ballot vote or a hand count.
Can they enter into the auditorium to be heard, or we seal?
Yes, they have to enter in the auditorium to be heard, but they will be counted in the other room. Do we have any idea how many people are in the other room? Has anyone taken a count? Okay. 300, okay. Okay. Okay, we're going to proceed to this, to a vote. All in favor of resolution number 15, say aye. Opposed? I think that was decisive enough. Okay, the next page in your docket, page number 1, is for informational purposes only. We're now going to proceed to page 2, which is education.
Mr. Moderator, the Budget Committee would move the amount of $192,697 for the operations of the school.
Second.
$19,192,000.
697. It's just above the item that says 6,200, Jim.
Oh, yes. Okay. What?
Page 2, under the first bar.
Okay. Okay, we're not going down to the bottom line? Okay.
Now, Mr. Moderator, upon reviewing the charter, required us to break out the school committee salaries for some reason, so we had to do that. It's in the charter. The school committee salaries have to be separate.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, under the recommended amount 2000, 2003, 2004, the chairman of the Budget Committee has made a motion for $19,192,697, which is listed in the last column, just before where it says subtotal, and just above school committee salaries. Was there a second to that motion?
Yes, there was.
School committee, do you have an amendment to that?
school committee would like to amend the motion to be $19,858,228.
That's $19,858,228. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Was there a second to that motion?
Yes, there was.
Okay. Are there any further motions?
$19,858,228.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion. David Ballard, 35 Farnham Street. I'd like to make...
You make an amendment? Okay.
Yes. For the number to be $19,800,000.
Is there a second?
Is there a second to that motion? Yes, ma'am?
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
Karen Boddington, 40 Reed Street. I'd like to amend the budget to be $19,611,897.
19,611?
$19,611,897.
Okay, that's all the amendments that could be made at this time. Would you like to speak on your motion? You have the last motion.
Jimmy, did you get a second?
Did you get a second? Okay. Go ahead, you may proceed.
Thank you. As we all know, that Tiverton is in a very confusing and difficult time right now. Many people are upset. Many people are angry. Many people have a right to be concerned about many of the things that are going on in our town. I'd just like to remind people of a couple of things. We have a wonderful town. We know that it's growing and people are moving here for many of the things that are in this town. It's a beautiful area. We are in a wonderful location, close to many attractions, and we have an outstanding school system. We understand that people are concerned about the way that their taxes may be being raised, and we absolutely empathize. We as parents and community members also have to deal with the problems that are going to be raised by the changing tax rate. However, the measure of a community is often in the way that it treats those least able to help themselves. Please remember that your dissatisfaction with an administrator or a school committee or the town council or other management or administrative people in town should not be taken out on the children of our town. I just urge you to consider that as we look at the expenses that go into our budget, that no money spent on education is ever a waste. It will come back to the town manyfold. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
If I may trouble three people to answer three questions, I'd greatly appreciate it. On our docket, we have it pretty clear, and the budget committee did their little thing, the school board did their little thing, explaining the differences in their budgets. However, our docket says 20 million. You folks cut it to 19,800,000 and something. Could you tell me where you cut? What you cut? And what did the other two people cut? When you cut it to 19,800,000, you must have cut something additionally. 19,611,000, you must have cut something additionally. I'd like to know what I'm voting on, besides just the dollars. Where your thinking was.
Yes, Miss, would you like to answer that?
What we did is we looked at the budget committee numbers and the school committee numbers. The budget committee began with a recommendation of $816,085, that much of an increase. In addition, there were a number of other items that the school committee had requested or had recommended that the budget committee chose not to fund. When we sat down and we looked at the budget, we realized that many of these budget items were not, in our opinion, optional. Okay. For instance, there is an issue of the number of students that get sent to Rogers for vocational education. That is a state mandate. We do not have the ability to say that we are not going to send them. Yep. So what we did is we went through and pulled a number of, we added up
items that we felt needed to be included back into the budget and came up with a total of $413,000.
There was two other. You cut yours from 20 to 19.8 something. What'd you cut, if you don't mind my asking?
Right down the list. We cut one fifth-grade teacher. We combined two administrative positions, the technology coordinator and the curriculum director, into one. We reduced some high school positions. We took $25,000 out of our textbook supplies. We took money out of instructional equipment, pupil supplies, sports supplies. We decided not to hire a dean of students. We had some savings by extending the busing contract for a year at the same rate over what we had projected. Blue Cross Blue Shield. Never mind, hold on. I have to drop some more. 1 second. Department chair for industrial technology. Come on. All right, sorry. All right. It's Roger Student. We reduced by one from the original request. And we have two teachers retiring. Perfect. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
My name is Alfred J. Broder, 268 Nanaquacket, Tiverton. As a overtaxed homeowner and certainly against any irrational exuberance in financial matters, I am definitely opposed to all of this talk about raising extra money for the school budget. And I'm speaking against that amendment that this lady just went to. On a retired person's income, when you get kicked with an extra $3,000 extra in taxes, when you're already paying $6,300, and you're going to be faced with a tax bill of $10,300, I am outraged. And I know there are people who are not getting that much in tax increases, but I am outraged, and I want to voice my opinion about it. And I got beat to this microphone because I wanted to place an amendment, but I thought this lady was ahead of me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Norma Abelo, 74 Kenyon Road in Tiverton. I recommend that we go along with the recommended budget of $19,192,697. We, as taxpayers of the town of Tiverton, cannot afford even one more dollar in taxes. You know, you talk about the children. Yes, if the money that you request is going for the kids, I'm for it. It's not for the kids, it's for the administrators. It's not for the kids. You talk about the young people in this town. What about the old people in this town? What about the people on fixed incomes? What about the people who have disabilities and are on a fixed income also? I've paid taxes in this town for 52 years. Now, what is the town going to do for me? I'm getting taxed out of my home. Please, please, please think twice before you vote, because if you get any more expenditures, our taxes are going to go up. The people who are just about making it, we live month by month for our checks. At the last week of our month, we have nothing. If some of you people just turned around and lived the way some of us older people on a fixed income are living, they'd understand what's going on in this town. I think that we've done enough for this town. It's time for the town to turn around and do something for the elderly people and the people on a fixed income. No more taxes.
Thank you.
No more taxes.
Robert Terrell, 185 Kearns Avenue. I can
very much appreciate what this lady and the gentleman before me said. I care very much about the school system. I invested 6 years in hopefully making it better. I know there are a lot of concerns about the contract to the educators, your assessments, your reassessments, and double-digit and large increases for administrators in the town hall. But I have to tell you that if you approve Mr. Carter's recommendation, this will destroy the district. I urge you to approve the board's amendment. The board's amendment translates into a 45-cent increase with a $200,000 assessed home. That's $90. That's 25 cents. Please consider that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Robin Payne, 24 Little Harbor Road here in Tiverton. I'm relatively new in town.
Can you speak up?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm relatively new in town. I've only been here since '99, but one of the things that I'm seeing here in this meeting and is the credibility gap just continues and continues based on what is happening here tonight. Okay, sorry. I said the credibility gap is continuing based on what I'm seeing here tonight. An example quickly is how fast we blew through these resolutions. I'm not sure that many people realize that once you approve resolution number 2, that the race to the mic would be kind of to the swift here, because only 2 people could go up and throw an amendment out there, and now we've got to vote on 3 alternatives, none of which maybe we like. How do we deal with this? Well, one of the ways we can deal with this is we can vote them all down and go back to the board, go back to the beginning on some of this process. We're faced with a problem that we're seeing in our neighbor, Massachusetts. Just take a hard look at what's going on over there. State aid is being cut dramatically, and the towns are going to pay the bill. They're the ones that are going to have to pick it up. If we keep going up and up and up and up, and yeah, our taxes go up too, but what happens when Rhode Island turns around and starts doing this to us? Where are we going to back to? Where are we going to go? We've already spent it all. There's no place to go. We have not really taken a hard look at some of these budget issues, and we have you get into some of these, jump away just for a minute. I just recently heard that the fire department, a little quick move, I know, the fire department has withdrawn from its budget a ladder truck that would go up like 4 stories. I'm not sure how many buildings are blocking the view from wherever you are that's got 4 stories on it, but we get things thrown into budgets everywhere all over this place that are simply there to be cut. And we need to go back and have this budget looked at. I'm going to recommend that if you want to vote on one of these numbers, fine, go right ahead. But the way to get the numbers to come out the way we like to have them come out and be as tight as possible, with any management process, they're going to be as tight as possible. They have to be. Companies can't survive, neither can the town survive unless they're as tight as possible, is we vote them all down and start right off again.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Irene Correa, and I'd like to address this question to Mr. Carter, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you recommend these figures and not the higher figure that the schools want?
Quite frankly, we wrestled with this issue for a long time. There are a number of issues that filtered out as we reviewed the budget that, quite frankly, we weren't happy with to start with. One of them is the fact that the school department, school administration, school board is engaged in a deficit spending issue that they've pushed monies that are obligated this year into next year's budget. I, in fact, have a legal opinion about that has been granted to me yesterday from our solicitor that concurs with that. And there will be some litigation ultimately on how that will get resolved, but ultimately it will be the treasurer's determination that those funds that are obligated for this year should be spent from this year's budget. And I'm not sure how that's all going to work out. But that was a substantial portion of the piece that we're not recommending. We as a board do not feel comfortable recommending funding an item that is apparently illegal. And that we will stand by that. We would not do that for any department. Beyond that, we looked at how we operate our school system today. And we looked at some of the issues within the budgetary presentation that was presented to us, and quite frankly, we were taken aback by the fact that there was a dean of students buried within the salary accounts that was not presented to us properly. It was an item that was up for full discussion last year. We did not recommend it. The taxpayers didn't recommend it, but yet it was buried within to maintain existing services, which we take as a fifth grade teacher or a kindergarten teacher, and we really didn't take that. We had to go delve into the budget to find it. We did. We found it. It was $83,000. And we didn't think it was appropriate to recommend that this year. So that caused us to look even further into the budget. There was a part-time maintenance director that was also not recommended last year that was in the budget. We're not recommending going with that. There was a full discussion on the board about how we should fund community service coordination, that maybe that should be done instead of paying somebody $50,000 a year to do it, that the school hierarchy within the class, along with class advisors, should be the methodology on how that program should take place. We looked at, there are 16 custodians in 6 buildings, that maybe we should eliminate one of those. These are very fiscally tight times. There were a number of teacher substitutes. We pay teachers not only substitutes, we pay clerks for substitutes. We pay clerks overtime, and we pay for custodian substitutes and custodian overtime. We made some minor reductions in those accounts. Something historically that the Budget Committee looks at is staff turnover and retirees. We have a staff of in excess of 200. They didn't provide any turnover numbers whatsoever. They never do. It's always the Budget Committee's fault because we do take into consideration the fact that we do have staff turnover. It is a number that we budget for. We expect it when somebody's making $45,000 a year and that position becomes vacant because they move somewhere else, that we will fill it with a $32,000 a year position. That's just how we think we should manage the schools properly. We budget for that. They don't want to. We budgeted for retirees. We expect that a certain amount of people would retire based on what the governor presented in his budget. The governor requested in his budget that the teachers of this state would pay 2% more out of their pocket for retirement. We anticipated, excuse me, we anticipated that would cause a drove of people to retire, but in fact, the NEA is so strong in the state that they're going to get that overturned. The state is going to have to wrestle with where they're going to come up with the money for that. That would have been a benefit for this community. So there were a number of issues that we looked at within the purchase service accounts, which are items such as postage, spotlight programs, office supplies, textbooks. We looked at all of those accounts, and in some of those we made, out of all of them, about $240,000 in reductions. I don't think that you're looking at an $18 million budget or $19 million budget. $240,000 is not a very significant number. We did not cut any item below where we currently are. And in fact, we funded some of these accounts in excess of where we are. So we made some very rational decisions to give us comfort in recommending a 4.4% increase. We don't believe, we did make a recommendation to eliminate one fifth grade teacher. That recommendation was made on the presentation of the high school, of the middle school principal at his presentation to the Budget Committee. We did not make any irrational budget cuts. Is the budget cuts tight? Yes, they are. Like I said, we are in very tight times. We recognized the fact that this revaluation was going to cause a significant impact across the entire community. We felt it would be very proactive to be conservative in order to mitigate that, to find out where this all shakes out. We recognize that the school has, in fact, asked for a lot of things. Are they valid? Yes, they are. I've never seen a school board come in and ask for something that was inappropriate. They're all valid programs, but how can we afford them all is how the Budget Committee wrestled with coming up with our recommendation to increase funding by $816,000.
Mr. Carter.
And it does not close schools, by the way.
You know, they get by offering
Ma'am, would you please state your name and your address?
I just finished saying, Irene Correa.
Okay.
Justice Street. Moderator, listen. All right.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Carter.
Yes, ma'am.
is a letter that you had in the Secundant Times. See, they're offering salaries and benefits they cannot afford to pay, and there's a deficit, and they are, in other words, not funding, not getting. They're postponing it for the following year.
They're borrowing on your backs for next year and the year after.
Is that right?
That's right.
Your letter states here, and what did they say? They say, well, the attitude is what we've done, live with it. This is the attitude of the school department. The taxpayers of this town have been very generous with the schools, and they know it. But we cannot be just throwing our money to the schools and the senior citizens just getting a 2.5 increase in their pensions.
Mrs. Carrera, just to clarify your point, there are 164 teachers within the contract who they could not pay $290 each to. They deferred 145 of that for all 164 teachers to next fiscal year and the fiscal year of 05 because they couldn't afford to pay them this year.
That's what I mean.
Yes, you can.
Thank you. I'd first like to address the deficit. They have received a legal opinion, as have we. We have received them from our respective attorneys. We have not heard anything from a judge. We have not been told definitively that we are, in fact, in deficit spending. Our attorney, throughout the entire process, he was with us the night that we were negotiating, he was with us the night that we settled this contract, insists that we are not in deficit spending and that we have a legal grounds for this too. So to definitively say, without a doubt, that we are in deficit spending is just as much a conjecture as ours is. It's opinion of the attorney. The next thing I'd like to discuss is the Dean of Students and the Maintenance Director. The Maintenance Director and the Dean of Students, neither of them were recommended by the Budget Committee, but they were put into the budget by the School Committee last year. Now, when we did that, that became part of our budget. And when we reintroduced it this year and said that we were maintaining programs, it was discussed at public meetings that anyone could have been at several times, the possibility of cutting those programs. And when we discussed what we would be sending to the Budget Committee, we discussed at those public meetings that these would in fact be in there. So they were not concealed. If that's the opinion, then we apologize, and through discussions, I'm sure that we have figured out that that wasn't the intent. The final thing I'd like to discuss is turnover. Turnover in the past, we receive notice in April or May about, it's in April, of retiring teachers. We have an incentive program that allows teachers with a combination of teaching experience and age to retire early. This year, we only had 2 people tell us. That's the number that we can go with. We can't say 8 because there aren't 8. We can't say 12 because there aren't 12. There are 2. That's a savings of $20,000. So to assume that it would be anything more is just an assumption. And we can't go by assumptions because if we're wrong, a program gets cut. And that's how we see things. Thank you.
This ma'am over here on the right.
My name is Marilyn Bolton, 71 Gilly Hill Drive. First off, Mr. Cotta, I would implore that you separate out an issue. It's also an issue that was blurred earlier in the evening. It seems as though I'm hearing 2 what I consider to be very distinct issues. I hear people having an issue with teachers' salaries, which are decided in a contract outside of this meeting. All right? Once those salaries are set, they need to be paid, which means if the items that are on your list go through, and it's obviously they've got an issue on some of them, but the issues such as Blue Cross has to be paid. That's already decided as far as percentages, who's paying what. The issue in regards to sending the children to the VOTEC Center, that's mandated by law. The retirement issue that was just brought up again, if those teachers are here, that must be paid, which means if you vote to reduce the amount that the school committee is suggesting, that money's then got to come from somewhere, and it is going to affect the students because the teachers are going to get paid, which means a reduction in the programs for the children. So please do not be mistaken that the people that will be affected if you do not fund the recommendation by the school committee are the children.
Did you ask me a question?
They are the children. I'm just suggesting, Mr. Cotter, I would like to clarify, you ended up bringing into your conversation, the reason for me mentioning that at the very beginning of my discussion was because at the beginning of your comment, you ended up bringing in the state situation.
I'm not sure I understand the question, that's all.
No, there was no question. I just wanted to clarify. The reason why I believe that you're blurring the issue is because you're bringing up a state issue regarding percentage paid towards their retirement. What does that have to do with what we're talking about here in Tiverton?
Because that's what we were told by the governor. We when we put our budget
But what does that have to do with funding this budget?
Ma'am, we received about $4 million from the state of Rhode Island in order to supplant our budget. We have to know what those numbers are and how the governor projects those in order for us to be comfortable with what we're funding. We can't just do it in a vacuum and say, well, whatever the state gives us, the state gives us.
Are you suggesting that if the teachers have to pay 2%, that you're going to get more? Is that what you're implying?
That's exactly what we were implying.
Has the governor said that he would do that? Because that's not what I've been hearing in the news and been reading in the articles. He's been cutting back across the board in regards to
education. If you listen to me, ma'am, I did say that the NEA was strong enough that they will overturn that.
My point is, do not blur the situation. If once a contract is made, it is made, and you're obligated. I know that that's an issue right now, but the bottom line is don't blur the issue, because if these things end up going through, and many of them definitely will, it will end up in a reduction of programs to our children, and I just want to make sure that everyone understands that.
Thank you. Mr. Miranda?
Yes. Actually, I really have two questions. One is, who created this sheet?
I can't see it, Larry. I have no idea what it is.
It says, to all concerned parents and other taxpayers of Tiverton, and gives an analysis of differences between what the Budget Committee is recommending and the school board.
I can tell you the Budget Committee prepared no report, no written document for this meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Miranda, that was made up by the school committee and the administration.
All right. The next question I had is, Chris, you indicated that you have an opinion from the solicitor that the contract recently signed is deficit spending.
That's correct.
Okay.
It's in violation of Rhode Island state law.
Okay. All right, that's fine. I got a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
You know, folks, you're going to do whatever you're going to do. That's your choice. It's your vote. But, Chris, I have a question. I happened to be at a town council meeting, and there was a vote. Okay? And I was part of that when the councilors voted that two attorneys on this specific subject get together and discuss it, because the school board's attorney had one opinion and you had a different opinion.
That's correct.
Okay. Did the attorneys ever get together?
I can't answer that. I didn't. That was not part of my charge. All I did was I wrote the complaint and I received the answer.
Okay. You got an answer from the solicitor. Mr. Solicitor, whoever you may be, you were instructed, or your partner was instructed by this council to meet with the school board attorney to make a determination on this contract. I'm being told tonight, and it's my understanding, I'm being told tonight that Mr. Carter has a recommendation from you folks, but I've also been told there was no meeting. Is that true?
I didn't provide a recommendation. I provided a complaint.
Correct. You're saying you got a recommendation from the solicitor saying it was deficit spending.
I have a legal opinion saying it is deficit spending.
Correct. But my question is, they were instructed and they were paid supposedly by this council. The only instruction was not to give Chris Carter an opinion, but was to meet with the school board attorney to decide whether or not that contract was valid or invalid.
I don't believe that that was the instruction at all.
Chris, it's on record. They voted on it. That night, for them to meet. That was the only recommendation. It was Don Boland's...
I'll defer to the solicitor if he so desires to answer.
I asked him, did your firm meet with the school board attorney to find out, is this or is this not a valid contract?
We have not addressed the question of whether the contract is valid or not. We have addressed the question of whether what this is deficit spending. We have reviewed Mr. Robinson's position. We have reviewed the backup material that was provided by him and by the school board, as well as by the budget committee. We have had exchanges about this. We are not persuaded by Mr. Robinson's opinion. We feel further exchanges are not necessary. We feel that state law is absolutely clear on this point.
Is the attorney for the school board here?
Mr. Robinson's out of town, Mr. Miranda. Couldn't make it this evening.
Is there anybody from his office?
I don't believe so.
Then I think you guys ought to fire your attorney.
Mr. Bossum?
That would help.
Yeah, my name is Joe Bossum, live at 580 Cornell Road. We have an idea of where Chris Carter would cut the school budget if he were the school board. But I've been reading the paper, the New Bedford paper a lot, and I see that a lot of our neighboring towns along the Cape have cut out things like school buses, charging parents for school buses, cutting out athletics, except that the parents foot the bill themselves. Where do you think you're going to have to cut if the budget committee's recommendations are enacted?
There's several areas that we've looked at that we'll have to look at. One is athletics as a potential cut. We also have to look at our elementary strings program at the elementary and middle school level. Middle school gifted and talented.
Are you saying you'd cut them out or charge?
You're asking me what would happen if we didn't get the money, and I'm trying to answer your question. These are all recommendations that will happen if the budget committee's number is passed, the $816,000 figure. These cuts, a person mentioned it earlier, these cuts will take place as we have to balance the budget. So to answer your question, middle school gifted and talented would be looked at, elementary Spanish, consolidate our in-school suspension programs, eliminate our AP programs at the high school, possibly close 1 or 2 elementary schools.
That was never presented to us at all.
Gentleman asked a question, and we're just trying to respond in kind. Reduce a full-time elementary nurse. Reduce a full-time elementary nurse to part-time. So those would be some of the areas we'd be looking at to do that.
Thank you. It's very helpful to know what would happen if we do cut the budget, as Chris Carter suggested.
You're welcome.
Ken McGovern, 30 Sherrill Drive. I've lived in a town for over 30 years, and I love when they get up here and use the children as a weapon. Always the children, always the children. Go to page 12. Go to page 12 and see what Blue Cross Blue Shield and Master Medical is costing us, over $1 million. Contractual. Here we go, contractual again. I'm retired, I'm paying $2,400 a year. How much are the school teachers paying out of there? $480 a year? Go to the meeting. Yeah, the union.
Yes, ma'am.
Karen Boddington, 40 Reed Street. I just would like to ask Mr. Cotter a couple of very specific questions.
Sure.
In addition to your $816,000, would you agree that you will need to restore, or there will need to be restored, money to send the additional students to Rogers for voc ed?
That is not, first of all, I want to clarify something that was said prior to you, just so I get it straight. This is not my recommendation.
The committee's recommendation.
I understand. I want to clear it because it was said 3 times. Mr. Carter does not make this recommendation. It's a collaboration of 10 people who are elected by this community. I sit here and I represent that board, and I set forth what they have recommended, whether I like it or not. As a matter of fact, I don't even vote on these items. I'm precluded from voting as chairman. But I will tell you, as it relates to Rogers and any other item that you are now going to specifically ask me, would I or would this committee do something with, I will tell you, one, A, it's out of our purview. The reason why we do this dance, for lack of a better term, is the school committee, as like last year and any other previous year, is allocated a grant. They get a block of money. They can do with it as they see fit. It is not our call to make those. That's why we did not vote on specific items to adjust this year, because there are a lot of gives and takes. The Blue Cross may go down. I don't know if it will. I'm hoping. But we haven't seen items that have gone down. They funded a nurse this year through savings of other accounts. And you'll also hear that, yes, they do these things, and come January 1st, they freeze all their accounts. Well, that's their prerogative to do that. It is not us, it's not our purview to sit here and micromanage every single line item, every single particular purchase that they do in the schools. It's our charge to sit down and recommend an amount of money that we think can fund our school system as it currently runs without closing any schools and without making an impact of laying off teachers. Okay. And we think that we've done that by recommending 4.4%.
So you're saying, though, that the fact that we are sending, Mr. Rurick, how many students are signed up to go to Rogers?
We have 18 scheduled for next September.
And you can ask Mr. Rurick what the history is.
Can I?
I'm going to clarify that just for your particular person. And you have spoken. You asked Mr. Rurick the history of what it is that's requested every year, and then the ultimate number that actually attend. And ask for that history for the last 10 years.
Excuse me, Mr. Rurick, when somebody comes back from, if they drop out of the Rogers program, does not the town get the refund of the tuition that we pay?
The answer to that question is yes, because we bill twice a year. So if a student drops out, let's say in December, we've already paid the first semester bill, but starting in January, we don't pay that amount. So yes, the money would stay in the town.
So if we do pay it, we do get the money back, and it goes directly back to the town, not to the school department. Is that right?
It stays within our budget. It stays within the school department budget.
Okay. It doesn't go back to the town?
No.
Okay. Okay. But do you acknowledge that there are more students than you had actually budgeted money for?
I'll acknowledge that happens every year.
Okay. Do you acknowledge that you have budgeted for more teachers retiring than we currently have?
No, I didn't say that. You misinterpreted, and so did Mr. Rurick, and so did I meant Mr. Broder, that we have projected $100,000 specifically on retirements. People don't understand that there are staff turnover. Staff turnover is far different than retirements. And there is no mandatory, I'm going to let you know that I'm going to take a position at Portsmouth because they're going to pay me more money, or I'm going to take a position in Providence because that's where I live, or I'm going to take a position somewhere else. And that
Mr.
does
Potter,
happen.
I was at a budget committee meeting a week ago when you said we believe you will have 10 people retiring.
I didn't say that, ma'am.
Yes, you did.
Well, that's your interpretation.
Yeah, you did. You did. We were all there.
Oh, yeah, you
Okay.
were. I see it. It's the biggest budget committee meeting we've ever had.
There is enough.
Can we proceed?
Go ahead.
Thank you. There's another item that you did not recommend funding, which is $42,000 for in-service training. That is contracted and is required by the state of Rhode Island. Your determination for not funding that was what?
There was $12,000 of it was for a consultant that is not mandated by the state of Rhode Island, and the remainder of it is the current budget is at $45,000. We figured out what the amount would be for in-service training to come to $72,000. The budget request was for $107,000. We made an adjustment.
Of what?
I don't know what it is.
There's another question, ma'am.
$30,000.
So there are certain items that could be that you chose not to fund.
That's correct.
Even though the school department made a need for them.
We believe that it's discretionary. I'm sorry. There are a number of accounts that go from 200 to 900 that we looked at, and some of them we don't recommend what they're advocating for.
So
if we did, we wouldn't be here.
So when we go through the budget for the rest of the town, all the discretionary spending for other state mandated education programs, for example, will also be examined and cut, perhaps?
I couldn't tell you offhand which ones were and which ones weren't, ma'am.
I think the answer is none of them. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Gail St. Pierre, 327 Brayton Road. I'd like to ask everyone standing up there who is representing our town, how many of you have children in the Tiverton school system that you're standing up for?
What does that have to do with anything?
That has a lot to do with
I
things.
have children in the school system as well.
Okay, so...
But our charge, quite frankly, ma'am, is to look at the budget that covers the entire town and determine the town's ability to pay taxes. My kids are going to the school system too.
They are?
And I resent that comment. I spend 3 to 4 nights a week going through this budget line item by line item. And for somebody to sit here and imply that we don't pay the same attention to any other department than the school is incorrect.
Excuse me, sir, but I don't feel that you had the right to get so defensive about it. I just asked a simple question.
Ma'am, in defense of all of us up here, and I include everybody, the school board, the budget committee, the town council, the administrator, we have been through a very long, arduous process of putting this budget together. I understand there are a lot of, and I apologize for my demeanor a little while ago also. This is, unfortunately, hopefully we'll get more civil, and I do apologize for that. But this is a long process, and we do put a lot of time into this. And we do take it personal, unfortunately.
Okay, yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Jim again. I live at 98 Horizon Drive, and I'm one of the so-called senior citizens. I'm on a fixed income. My taxes, just by virtue of the new assessment, will be increased considerably. But I want to say that, over the years I've moved a lot of different times and relocated. And one of the things I always look at when I look at real estate and look at real estate values is the value of the educational system in the town in which I want to move to. No one, including myself, likes to pay taxes. But I got to tell you that when I get ready to sell my home, if there's a great school system in Tiverton, my home will be more valuable than without it.
Yes, ma'am.
Teresa Jagman, 177 Lepus Road. I want to thank the Budget Committee for all the hours they spend. I really know it's a real tough job, and there's very little reward. I just want to say that there are over 300 people in the other room, and when this comes to a vote, let's have a hand vote on it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Again, my name is John DaCosta, 5 Washington Avenue, and I do also want to attest and thank the Budget Committee for a job well done. It wasn't easy. It is not easy volunteering, and I'm sure it was hard work. I do want to speak as a parent, as a father of 2 teenagers. And I'm not here to make a speech, but let me tell you, my friends, tomorrow is guaranteed to no one in this room, okay? No one, tomorrow is not guaranteed. And I see a cut here on the community service. And I really don't like that cut, because that means that our teenagers, I have one in the middle school and one in the high school, and this is a very good service for these students. And also, I heard through the grapevine, or the inference has been made, that sports are being cut. I also regret the fact that if that is true, I don't know if it is, that is very sad, because our teenagers in this town have to look forward to something. And if you don't keep them busy every night, my friends, you will read them in the Fall River Herald News, okay? Juveniles, 16, 14 years old. I asked my son Christopher, he has a few friends, and now he no longer takes the bus because his friend drives him to school. My friends, I'm not happy. I'm very sad. However, I can't stop him because he's a teenager, and I allow it. And the other day, he went to the mall. He says, oh, there, I let him go. And I said, do you have any friends? He says, yes. Who are they? And he says, do you know any of them? Do any of them do dope? Oh, very. And he kind of shake. Then I said, listen, don't hang around with those fellows. But he knows people who do that. So we have to have education. We have to support the school system. We cannot do anything about the teacher's contract or the administrators. I'm not going to micromanage the principal, although, but I think we got to get involved in the community service. We got to get involved in sports, and we got to keep our youth busy. And I do also agree with the senior citizens. Living on a fixed income is not a piece of cake, my friends. Thank you.
My name is Carrie Redden. I live at 62 West Ridge Drive. As someone who's been through this school system and has lived here, K through 12, graduate of here, I am a graduate of the Tiverton school system, K through 12, okay? What I just wanted to make clear was, I too am upset about my property reevaluation, but I'm not here to take it out on the school budget, okay? And I agree with our seniors who are saying they're overtaxed, but this is not the place to address that now. That needs to be addressed with our town council. It needs to be addressed with our town council about some type of tax relief for our seniors. We agree with you. We're not saying you have to take on the whole burden, but you're gonna punish our students here. You talk about neighboring Massachusetts. What's happening in Massachusetts? How about Portsmouth and Middletown, folks? Look at what they pay per student. Portsmouth pays over $9,000 per child. Middletown pays over 10. We're slightly over 8,000 per child. Are we the TJ Maxx of schools? I was told over 8,000 per child from our school department. Now I know I'm wrong. Am I wrong?
We are the 4th or 5th lowest in the state, and it's just over 8,000.
Thank you. And I agree that the Budget Committee has worked very hard at what they're doing. But why is it Portsmouth and Middletown, who also I'm sure work very hard and are overtaxed, can spend that extra money on the child? We can't confuse what's contractual here. It's going to affect our students. And I don't want it to affect mine. And I've listened to this since I was a child, and I don't think it's changing. We're all overtaxed. Everyone's overtaxed. But you're going to make the child suffer.
Ma'am. As far as Portsmouth goes, Portsmouth's got Raytheon, and Middletown's got the Navy.
Excuse me, I
It's got the military.
recognize Mr. Hart, please.
Dick Hart, Main Road in Tiverton. I've lived in Tiverton for quite a few years. I went to Nonquit School back in the 30s. Back then, the teachers were able to handle 25 or 30 students. I went on to a high school at Little Compton. My classes down there were quite small. I went on to URI. There was quite a jolt to me to be in classes of 40s, 50s, 60s in a class. I was ill-prepared, I think, to cope with those large classes. I went on, I got my bachelor's degree from the University of Rhode Island. I went on to Purdue, and I got my master's degree there. Again, the number of students per class were much higher. And in one way, I think it's a disservice to our students, to our children, to have small classes. They need to be prepared for larger classes if they're going to go on to college. I was reading in a farm magazine the other day where the American farmer...
Will you please let the speaker finish?
How the American farmers have become more efficient in their production and how many more people they can feed today than they could 30 or 50 years ago. I think there's a need for our school systems to become more efficient. We're supposedly in the age of computers and everything else, and I think that our younger parents and things maybe in one way are doing their children a disservice by not allowing for better preparation for the world of college and out at work, where they'll be in competition with more people. I just suggest that some thought be given to the Tiverton schools to become more efficient and in that way reduce the cost of education.
May I make a suggestion? It appears that most of the people are getting a little restless here. If you're not going to offer something different, I would suggest that maybe we should be moving to a vote. I know that Both of you gentlemen have spoken before. Now, miss, you haven't spoken before? I'll listen to you, please.
My name's Cheryl Whittier. I live at 184 Montgomery Street. And I just want to say that I have a junior on his way to senior year next year, and he's headed toward college. And I'm asking that you focus on the academics. If you have to cut somewhere, maybe the non-academic, because he needs to go to college and he needs to get those AP classes and those important classes. And just to focus on what we do have control of. We don't have control of a contract, but please save the programs, the academic programs for our kids. Thank you.
John Sousa, 178 Stony Hollow Road. I'd like to move the question.
Okay.
Mr. Moderator.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay. We are going to be taking a hand vote because this is probably the most important of all the budgets. It's 2/3 of all our budget. There are a number of people in the other room. All of the people in the other room are going to be counted. Would the tellers come forward and get ready? The first motion, I want everybody to be aware of this. The first motion is the last, $19,611,897. If that does not pass, we go to the motion before that, $19,800,000. If that does not pass, we will go to the motion $19,858,228. If that fails, we'll go to the first motion, $19,192,697. And if that fails, we'll start all over again. So we're going to start with the last motion first. Does everyone have that? Everybody ready? The motion is $19,611,897. All those in favor, would you please raise your hand?
We have 19 votes on that motion in the other room.
Okay, all those opposed, raise your hands, please. How many votes were for? How many votes were for? Well, there's got to be. I'm going to rule that. I'm going to rule that that motion has failed. There was 131 in favor, so there's substantially more than that were opposed. The next motion is for $19,800,000. $19,800,000. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Well, we'll just see how many are in. Just for the record, all those opposed, raise your hand. Okay, that fails. It was 195.44. The next motion is for $19,858,228. $19,858,228. All those in favor, raise your hand.
It's gonna be a lot closer. There's a bunch. I don't know what the other ones are.
Okay, all those against, please raise your hand. Oh, wait, is Mr. Rigo? Okay, all those opposed. Yep. Yes.
Three in the back.
That motion fails. 433 against and 341 for. We're now to the Budget Committee's recommendation of $19,192,697. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. I think I'm going to rule that the ayes have it.
Mr. Moderator, the Budget Committee would move school committee salaries at $6,200.
Any discussion? Ready for the vote? All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
The question was to move the school committee salaries at $6,200. It's right below the $19,192,000. It's required by the charter to be out separate. Mr. Moderator, I don't know how you want to do the capital items for the school. Do you want to just vote the number and see if there's any adjustment one way or the other? Or do you want to go line by line?
Well, why don't you make a motion that we take them all at once, and we'll see if there's anyone has any objection.
Mr. Moderator, the Budget Committee would move $290,895, and that's the subtotal on page 3 for all of the capital improvements for the school.
Second.
Does anyone have any objection to the school committee? Do you want to address any individual items?
Yes, we'd like to take them line item by line item.
Okay, we'll do that then. Okay, the high school roof program. Requested 100,000, recommended 100,000.
Moved in second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Fort Barton boiler. Requested 50,000, recommended 25,000.
Recommending 25,000.
Second.
Is there any amendments? Ready for the vote? All in favor of 25,000 say aye. Opposed? Carried. Radio transmitters, fires, all schools.
Mr. Moderator, there's a brick wall at the Fort Barton School. It's just above that. The school committee is recommending 20,000.
Okay, school committee's, okay. Is the school committee going to make the motion?
We move $20,000 to replace the brick wall at Fort Barton.
Okay. Is there a second? Any discussion?
There is a wall at Fort Barton that is bowing out and it's in danger of collapse, and we'd like to replace it so that it doesn't.
Exterior on the east side, the northeast side.
Mr. Moderator, the Budget Committee's position is that we currently have a subcommittee studying the elementary schools to determine which of them are salvageable. If they are salvageable, what will be done with them. And the committee would rather wait for the outcome of that report before we put any more money into the elementary schools.
In the meantime, a wall could fall down.
Okay, ready for the vote? The motion's been made for $20,000 for Fort Barton replace brick wall. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That fails.
The Budget Committee would move $15,000 on the radio transmitters for the schools.
Second.
Any discussion?
We have an amendment to that.
Amendment?
We do have an amendment, but we'd also, for that last voice vote, there are 300 people in the other room that aren't being heard.
Are we going to do a hand vote then on each one of these?
There's already a motion and a second on the floor, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, does anyone desire a hand vote either in this room or in the other room on this matter?
Yes, from the other room. Yes. The other room.
Okay, we're going to take a vote on whether or not we should have a hand vote on each one of these items. And we're also going to have to take a hand vote on the hand vote because we have to have the people in the other room heard. All in favor of having hand votes on each one of these items, please raise your hand. Would someone please take a vote in the other room? I see there's only a handful in this room.
Mr. Moderator.
This is why it should be in
Mr. Moderator.
Far more people. Hell, you put all these people in the bleachers. Board of Elections, always there.
One. Okay, we're not going to have a hand vote then.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
That still doesn't address the people not being heard in the other room through a voice vote.
I think now they can move into the other.
Just because you're voting on a hand vote, now it doesn't mean that all of a sudden they're going to be heard now. You're going to have to either take a hand vote just in the other room or...
Mr. Rigo, would you let me know if a majority of the people in the other room by voice vote are in favor or opposed to any of these items?
Yes.
Okay.
Excuse me, a lot of people in the other room already left, and I assume that a lot of people here left, so they could just move in this room.
Yeah, I'd ask that they do that then. Mr. Rigo, would you have the people from the other room move in here? There are empty seats. We'll take a brief recess.
Hey, face from the past. Hi, Lisa.
We get them all in there?
You were right. No one keeps... You're right.
Right here. We made a motion right here.
On the 15th?
We've moved it. Second.
Okay, and then were they starting to make the amendment?
No, I didn't. About the hand vote.
The radio transmitter. Yes. Yeah, we need to.
Mosley going again. He counted. They're certified to count. I mean, they're upset because they lost their vote. I mean, I would take any tactic I could have probably done. Quite frankly, to work with the numbers. You know, if he didn't have the numbers, he'd be waiting to, well, where's the other guy? So, what is it? Bring up some numbers out of the air?
We took this out, right?
Are they all in here now? And they gave us a count of 550? We'll call the meeting back to order. We please have a count of how many people are in the room. I understand everybody is here now. Chief Jack, what's the... How many people are now in the room, Chief? Okay. The Chief has indicated that there are 550 people in this room. We're going to go back to item radio transmissions, all schools. I understand the Budget Committee has made a motion for $15,000, and it's been seconded. Is there any other motions?
The school committee amends that motion to make it $30,000. The school committee believes that all of the schools should have the best fire warning system
Do you have a
available.
second first? Thank you.
The school committee believes that all of our schools should have the best fire warning system available for our children. If you fund $15,000, you only fund half of our schools to be safe as far as getting a warning signal from the school to the fire department to dispatch the engines. You'll find that the fire department is asking to have it put on their own buildings. We think that this is a matter of safety for the children, and we think that you should fund the $30,000 and have our children safe.
Mr. Moderator, just to clarify the Budget Committee's position. I'm sorry. The Budget Committee's position on this is that we do agree that these need to be done. That, in fact, that we looked at this, but we thought that because of the Facilities Committee study, that some of these could be deferred for a little bit, but we do agree that eventually they will all be done.
Okay,
and they have existing landlines right now, so they are not unprotected. They are protected.
The school committee would like them done before they need to be done.
We'd like to do a lot of things.
Okay, are you ready for the vote? Yes. The amendment is $30,000 by the school committee. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? They will take a hand vote.
We're going to keep real busy tonight.
It's really hard to say when you're there. So, you know, for all those...
Yeah. Okay, the teller's ready. All in favor, raise your hand, please. Might as well count. That's probably not enough. All those opposed? I think I'm going to rule that those opposed have it. Now we're going to go to the main motion. All those in favor of appropriating $15,000 for the fire alarms, raise your hand. Opposed? Passed.
Mr. Moderator, the Budget Committee would move 0 for the ADA High School. I'm sorry, we would move 20 for the ADA at Pecasset.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hands. Opposed?
ADA stands for the American with Disabilities Act. It's for the handicap compliance law.
On the rule that passed. ADA High School.
Jim, I don't think they understood what it was.
What?
I don't think they understood what it was.
No, he's on the next one. The Budget Committee is moving 0 for this year.
Second.
Excuse me, I have a question. This disability thing that we're voting on, didn't you people talk about that before, that we have 5 years? Is this the thing that we have to get our schools ready?
Yes.
Okay, now, you said we have 5 years. We're in our second year, correct?
No.
This is our first year.
Yes.
So if we vote this down every year, come the 5th year, it's going to cost us how much money that we have to do this?
I don't
You
know.
had a figure. You said after 5 years that if we didn't get our schools, I guess ramps and different things like that there, if we don't do this, and we do a little bit every year, at that 5th year, if every year we vote this down, at that 5th year when the state says that our schools have to have this, then you're either going to have to put that in and spend that lump sum of money, which everybody now is going to pay X amount of dollars more in their taxes because of that. Am I correct?
I'm not sure I understand what line item you're talking about, because there's a lot of ADA items here.
Right.
So can
well,
you be specific?
Is this the one that we have to get our schools ready for disability?
They all have to be done.
Right. So is this ramps, all kinds of different things like
It's
that?
door handles, it's unisex bathrooms, it's
Okay.
widening the stalls, it's a number of ADA issues to make
All right.
our buildings accessible.
Okay. Now, when I was at one of the budget committee meetings that you were discussing this, and you said we have a time frame to do that. Is that not correct?
Correct.
I believe we're agreeing to the time frame that the school has set forth. I don't think anybody has put a document in front of us and said that we're obligated to do this by the year X.
You mean that after, you had mentioned, I think it was 5 years, at the end of that
That's because the school's asking to put most of these on a 5-year plan.
The state has required us, we had the state come down last year and do a study of our schools, and they put us on a 5-year plan. What you see before you is our recommendation in order to meet that plan after 5 years.
Okay, now, what I'm asking is, if we vote this down every year that it's proposed to us, what happens in that 5th year?
We didn't. Are you asking for the one that's up right now for the high school?
I'm asking, no, the one that you have the 0 on.
Okay.
ADA high school, right?
If you let me explain, I was waiting for the school department to put their amendment in before I was going to explain it. But
okay. Well, I just want, you're voting this so quickly. I just want to make sure, I'm not even following you because you're going so quick.
I understand your question, but I think the school department, if they want to put an amendment in, should have that opportunity before we get into all the discussion.
Okay.
The school committee would like to amend this to be $15,000.
Is there a second?
Okay. Now I'll answer your question.
Okay.
We agree that these ADA issues need to be done. If you look at even the next line, you'll see that there are district high school door handles. That's part of the ADA issue that we're saying needs to be done in agreement with the schools. In addition to that, the $3.7 million bond is going, we think, will help alleviate part of the ADA problem in high school by providing unisex bathrooms in the new gymnasium, which is a piece of what needs to be done. So we're saying that we're not disagreeing that this doesn't need to be done, but we'd like to see how much of ADA compliance will be done after the renovation project to this building.
And when will that be, though? Like,
It
when will you know? Like
next year.
You'll know next year? Because when this comes up, like I said, if everybody keeps voting it down, I don't think that they realize that we do need this. We do need this in school to make our schools accredited.
I'm the chairman of the high school building committee. We'll have a definitive answer on those issues by this summer.
You will?
Yeah.
So when will we will discuss this again next year?
So by the time we roll around next year, we may play catch up at that time. But I'd rather not tax the taxpayer for something that we might be able to get somewhere else this year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Are we ready for the vote? We're voting on the school committee's amendment of $15,000. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, it fails. Next is ADA high school door handles.
The budget committee would move $5,000.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion for $5,000 for ADA high school door handles say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
The budget committee would move $3,000 on the district maintenance, which basically is the sewage treatment plant beam that needs to be replaced.
Second.
The school committee would like to amend this figure to be $8,000.
Is there a second?
And I'd also like to point out that the 3 items under district maintenance, the 2 tractors and the sewage plant, were 3 distinct items on our budget request. So we cut one of those items, but they should be 3 separate line items here.
Quite frankly, the budget committee does set this docket. It was presented to us as a district maintenance item. We did clarify within this that it's 2 tractors at $20,000 and it's a sewage treatment plant at 3. So it's very clear.
And the ability to vote for individual items like we had anticipated.
You want us to list every tuber and every other,
When we group things, we'd like to have things grouped, and when we put things individually, we'd like to have
well,
things done
it's our charge to set the docket, and we think we've done a decent job. So.
Is there a second to that motion?
Excuse me? Heather Skripiak, 36 North Court. I just like the budget committee to stop being so condescending.
Oh. Ma'am,
we're all adults here, please.
And so are we, but to be criticized for putting things together so that we could minimize space and to vote on things as they were presented to us. And this is what we've done.
Stop being so condescending, that's all.
School committee, do you want to speak on your motion? The school committee has amended this motion for district maintenance for for a total of $8,000. All in favor say aye. Opposed? The Budget Committee has recommended $3,000. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
The Budget Committee would move $11,395,000 for high school band equipment and a softball machine.
Second.
Any discussion?
School
All in
committee,
favor say
the
aye.
school committee has an amendment.
Opposed?
School committee has an amendment.
An amendment?
Yes.
You've asked for 11,000, haven't you?
Sorry? Yes, and when we went through our budget and when we made cuts to capital before, we cut $1,395 out of this line item. We can't change that now, so we have to amend it to be $10,000.
Okay. Amended. Is there a second? Okay, the school committee has reduced their request to $10,000. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Budget Committee would move $5,000 for the high school lockers.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
The Budget Committee would move $4,000 to replace the stage curtains at the high school.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes.
Budget Committee would move $2,500 to replace the sod at the football field.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes.
The Budget Committee would move $0 on the high school fire tower.
Second.
No amendment.
Okay. There's no, we don't have to vote on, there's no amendment. We'll pass that.
Budget Committee. The Budget Committee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Carl Destrom's 121 Penny Pond Road. Now, if this is to knock it down, is it a safety hazard if a kid climbs up there and falls? Is the town liable, or is the taxpayers liable?
Well, I would assume so, Carl. It's been there forever. The reason we didn't approve this money now is that, again, the bond that we're going to do for the high school here calls for new football fields, tennis courts, all sorts of things.
Part of that would
I don't
be
even know what's happening over there, and that might actually come down when we build those things. So
Okay.
that's the reason we.
Mr. Moderator, the Budget Committee would move $0 on the high school athletic lockers.
Yeah, zero.
No amendment.
There's no motion. No? I understand.
No amendment?
There's no amendment, so there's no vote. We'll proceed to the next item.
Mr. Moderator, the Budget Committee would move $0 on the high school watering system for the athletic fields.
School committee would amend that.
Second, wait a minute.
Sorry, school committee would amend that to be $12,500.
Second. Is there any discussion?
Again, with the
Again, without knowing how the final athletic facilities are going to pan out there, I don't want to put something in the ground and then rip it out again.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. The school committee has recommended $12,500. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion fails.
Budget Committee would move $20,000 for elementary roof and window repairs.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
The Budget Committee would move $50,000 for classroom computer system-wide.
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
The Budget Committee would move $0 on the elementary tables and chairs, rugs and shelves.
Second.
School committee would amend that to be $16,000.
That's the, you're talking about the refinish on the gym?
The gym floor. Sorry, wrong one. My fault. Yeah.
Michelle, yeah.
Okay.
Is there no amendment?
No, no amendment, sorry.
There's no amendment on that? Okay, we'll pass that. The next item is the middle school refinished gym floor.
Budget Committee would move $0.
Second.
School committee would move $16,000.
Any discussion on that item?
Yeah, explain.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
There's some discussion. Would someone please come to the mic?
Okay, my name is Eleanor Byrne. I live at 140 Evans Avenue. I'm the freshman girls basketball coach here at the high school. My girls have played on that floor for 5-6 years. I've also coached junior basketball league in this town. That floor is horrendous. I'm waiting for the day that one kid will hurt themselves on that floor because it is horrible. One end of the floor is more worn out than the other. You can even look at it and see it. The floor is warped. If we don't take care of that gym floor, now, forget, you're going to be paying for somebody suing the town for an injury.
Mr. Moderator, I don't debate that the floor needs maintenance, but again, it's an issue of what can we afford this year, and somewhere along we have to decide what we can and what we can't do.
You ready for the vote? All in favor of the amendment, $16,000 for the gym floor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. I think we'll take a hand vote.
Who's got the megaphones up there? That's what I want to know.
Raise your hand. This guy's coming. Please. You voting? No? Okay, all those opposed, raise your hand. The motion fails, 247 for and 304 against.
The Budget Committee would move 0 on the chain link fence at the middle school.
Second.
School committee would amend that to be $6,500.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Discussion? None. If there's none, all in favor of the school committee's motion to amend it to 6,500, say aye. Opposed? Motion fails.
The Budget Committee would move $10,000 at the middle school to replace the heating units and some painting.
Second.
School committee would like to amend that to read $12,400.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion on the amendment? None? If not,
To the mic.
We're asking that for the additional money because as it's listed there, it says heating units and painting, but it's also to repair doors, and the painting's going to be done in the classrooms, and we feel that it's necessary that it gets done at the middle school.
okay, you ready for the vote? We're going to first vote on the amendment by the school committee for $12,400. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Budget Committee
We'll
would
go
move...
to the main motion. All those in favor of $10,000 say aye. Opposed? That passes.
The Budget Committee would move 0 on the, and it's a misprint, it's middle school miscellaneous band equipment.
Second.
Is there a motion?
I got tired, I'm sorry.
Dan.
School committee would like to amend that to be $7,275.
Second.
Any discussion on your amendment? No?
It's to purchase musical instruments that are too expensive for students themselves to purchase. So, would you like the answer? I can continue.
Okay, you ready for the vote? All those who were in favor of this... Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Lynette Strightfield, 41 Middle Avenue. In regards to these musical instruments, I am a band parent, and I'm also a musician. And I can guarantee you there's not too many 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th graders that can haul around a bari sax or a tuba. So when you make this decision to not give the band any funding that they need in this regard, music also has an effect on our students' learning abilities. There's been studies done that it enhances a child's learning abilities overall in other regular curriculum like English and math, et cetera, et cetera. Also, when these students are hauling home these 35 and 40-pound instruments, they do get damaged, and subsequently that does cost a little bit more money. But if the band is able to provide these students these instruments, either for a low cost or no cost to the parents, then it also makes it possible for these students to learn these instruments, because some of these instruments are kind of exotic and they are expensive, but they are a necessity.
Ma'am, just
Thank
to
you.
let you know where the Budget Committee fell out on this, we did look at a lot of musical equipment this year, and we're recommending funding some for the high school this year, and I anticipate that we'll look at the middle school next year. We looked at the tune of $11,395,000 that we recommended for equipment, band equipment at the high school. So I think that we just felt that we couldn't do it all in one year, that's all.
Fair enough.
Okay, all in favor of the school committee's amendment of $7,275, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That fails.
The Budget Committee would move $20,000 for the elementary school consultant.
Second.
Okay, there's
There's
no
request.
amendment to
That was
that. Are you
last
ready
year's.
for the vote? All in favor of the $20,000 as recommended by the Budget Committee, say aye. Aye. Opposed? I think that passes. Turn the page. Someone make a motion for a hand vote? Somebody please stand and make a motion. Well, someone approach the microphone and make the motion, identify themselves, and someone could second it.
Dave Perry, Bramble Way. I make a motion for a hand vote.
Okay? Okay. All in favor of taking a hand vote, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, let's take the hand vote.
Hey, Jim, is there any discussion for the item? Too late for discussion?
All those in favor of the $20,000, raise your hand.
Mr. Moderator, Mr. Moderator, I'm not sure whether everyone in this room knows what this is for. This is
That's
for,
what we want to know.
This is for an engineering study for the Elementary School Facilities Committee to take a look at renovations and additions to our elementary schools. The bond issue for the big school was voted down. This Elementary School Facilities Committee needs to have some information to base their opinion upon on fixing the schools that we have. So this is what this is for.
Okay, what's the... Okay, all those opposed, please raise your hand. How many votes are there, Hannibal? That's... See if there's 304 opposed.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
On certain issues, I mean, it's kind of vague on what they mean. Is there any way somebody can explain to us exactly?
I think someone has to ask before we take the vote. When I ask if there's any discussion, you then have to...
I mean, I tried to get from the back to the microphone, but you guys already blew through it and went to another item. So all I'm asking is, even if somebody yells out, just what is it? Like the fire tower, it says it's fire tower. I didn't know if you were going to rebuild it or what you were going to do there until I asked, but I made it down to the mic for that one. But some of the people from the back are having a hard time getting down to the mic in time before we go on to the next time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Point well taken.
Mr. Moderator, do you want me to say anything about it?
Excuse me? No, we've already taken the vote. The ayes have it, 247 to 137.
Mr. Moderator, after consulting with the town administrator, I'm going to move on page 5, $418,276.30 for all the capital improvements for the municipal side.
Before we do that, is there anyone who would like to speak on any of these individual items? $418. Yes, sir.
Moderator, I'd like to make a motion that we reduce that amount by the $13,000 for the town hall air conditioning and the $27,000 for the mapping.
Are there any other amendments?
Mr. Moderator, my name is Mike Kennedy. I live in East Road. I would make an amendment on page 4, number 3, Economic Development Committee PowerPoint projector, $3,500 be reduced to 0.
Is there a second? Yes, sir.
Jeff Smith, 171 Crandall Road. I'd like to make an amendment on the skate park funds
to read $10,000. We went out and we raised almost $20,000 to do this project. We have all the equipment in place to finish it. We just need a little more funds to pull it off, and we'd have a skate park for the kids on Booger Marsh Road. We could pull this off this year. If you gave me the $15,000, we could really have a nice skate park for these kids and get them off the streets, get them off all the elderly housing projects where they try to skateboard. So if we can get this passed, I think we'd have a nice skate park for the kids. And we have half the money, so it's not like you're asking to fund the whole thing. We raised $20,000, and we have the equipment to do the job.
Might as well do all of them individually. Okay. Thank you, sir. Are there any other amendments?
Excuse me. David Surratt, 45 South Avenue. I just have a question. I would like somebody to explain what the town-wide geographic information system mapping is.
It's been explained to me a number of times, and I still have some difficulty. I'm going to defer to our tax assessor. It's a very good system, and it was obviously the budget committee voted on it and approved it, and it was. I think it would be a benefit to the town the way it's explained to me, but I think you should probably hear from somebody who has more knowledge on it.
The GIS system is a mapping system. It's done by satellite. If we approve this, we have a good chance of getting a lot more grant money. It's considerably more than what we have in the budget. If we don't get the money for this, we have a chance of losing any chance of the grant money, which could be as high as $100,000. We're going to need this. Every department in town is in favor of this. I think I speak for every department. The police department, the fire department, the building inspector, the tax assessor. In my department, this could keep track. We have certain issues in town where people have escaped taxation over the years because our maps are so pathetic. And I think that if we had this, I think everyone in this room would benefit by it, that people would not escape taxation by having an extra lot next door to them, for instance. That's a buildable lot as opposed to being excess land. I think ultimately it would bring in a lot of extra income to the town. As I said, it would save money for the fire department, the police department, public works. It would map manhole covers. Once the mapping system is done, it can be used. It's state of the art where it will be able to be used for decades in the future.
Thank you.
Additionally, if I could respond, Mr. Surratt, to that one, the town of Tiverton was one of 3 communities in the country that received GIS, or the first level of GIS mapping as it relates to E911, which is for tracking from cell phones. When someone, in fact, has an emergency, they use their cell phone. Our town has already been mapped for that, but we don't have the overlay that we can put it on. That's another one of the examples. Also, in addition to the departments of the town, would be the 2 water departments, which would be able to map and plot their hydrants as well as the water service lines within the streets of the town. So that was the reason. This was really the first step in what we were hoping to be a long-standing project, but this was, in fact, the largest of the steps. But the overlay districts from that point on are substantially less.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
Can I make a motion? Ruth Hollenbach, 843 Secaucus Avenue. I make a motion that this be lowered to 0 because the assessments have just been done, and it can be done. This can be bought much later. I know you're going to get funding with it, but I believe that can be done later also, or you need to prove to us that you cannot get the funding later on next year.
I believe that somebody has already amended that to 0. I believe. Mr. Gonzalo?
Okay.
Is there anyone else now before? Because we're going to take these few items out of the bottom line. Is there anyone that wants to make an amendment of any of these other items before we do that? Move the question. Okay, the first item we're going to take is the Economic Development Committee PowerPoint projector. Somebody has moved 0, so what I'm going to do is we're going to take a motion, take a vote on the $3,500, because if you turn that down, then obviously it's going to be 0. So all in favor of the recommended $3,500 for the Economic Development Committee PowerPoint projector, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, so that is 0. The next item that was asked to be taken out is the recreation skateboard park.
No, they were asked to put 10,000 in, Jim, not take it out.
Excuse
It's
me,
already
well,
zero.
to take out of the main motion.
Okay.
So we're going to discuss that. The motion has been made for $10,000 for the recreation skateboard park, which was an amendment to the main motion of zero. All in favor of $10,000 for the skateboard park, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. I think we better have a hand vote. My wife is going to be so emotional.
What are we doing, yes or no?
All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed to this $10,000 for the skateboard park, raise your hand. Wow. Raise your hand. Stick it up. Yeah. That fails. 277 against, 212 for. The next item that we're going to take out of order is the town hall air conditioning, which somebody has moved zero. What we're going to do is we're going to have a vote on the $13,000. If you want to vote zero, you would just vote this motion down. So all those in favor of $13,000 for the town hall air conditioning, say aye. Aye. Opposed? I think that fails. The next item. Town-wide geographic system mapping. If you want to vote zero, you will vote this motion down. All those in favor of $27,000 for the town-wide geographic information system mapping, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. I think we'll have a hand vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. those opposed to the $27,000 for the mapping system, raise your hands.
Oh, the air conditioner's out, right?
That motion fails. 261 against, 223 for. Do we have it
Mr.
amended?
Moderator, I'd move 374, 77630, and that's a result of all those votes.
I agree with that number, Mr. Moderator. I second.
374, 776, 30.
That's correct.
Which is the recommended amount minus the ones that we just voted on.
That's correct.
All those in favor of the $374,776.30 say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Mr. Moderator, on page 6, the Budget Committee would move $599,759 for debt service.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor of $599,759 say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mr. Moderator, the Budget Committee would move $169,128.11 for the town clerk's office.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Mr.
Rigo?
Moderator? Okay,
Mr. Rigo?
Mr. Rigo.
Jim Rigo, Tiverton Board of Canvas, 44 Paul James Drive. I wish to amend that figure to read $187,855. And the reason why we need to do this is because we operate with a part-time clerk for the Board of Canvassers. And we're not able to keep up with the workload with this type of work schedule. We're getting backed up in that office. We haven't even processed the ballot applications from the last election. There's a National Voting Act coming down at us called HAVA. It's going to dramatically impact the way we do business. It's going to hit everybody in the country. And we just can't do this on 15 hours a week or 19 hours a week. We need to get a full-time clerk in there once and for all and solve this problem. And I would appreciate a second from somebody on my request. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, unfortunately, I think the amendment is out of order for the sole fact that it was never presented to the Budget Committee, and it would have to have been presented through the budgetary process from the administrator to us in order to be recognized.
I think the item is on here, though. Can't we amend an item that's on the docket? You can't add a new item to the docket. Can't you amend an item that's on the docket?
This is what we're doing. We're just increasing the salary level of the clerk from part-time to full-time by $18,000 and change a year.